Oh hey, Marc here. I'm a professional artist, an art teacher, and in today's video we're going to be reviewing a tablet. So this is going to be my full review of the XP Pen Artist 24 Pro tablet. So this is a tablet that's supposed to be coming out mid-June 2020. Of course, I told them, you know that if it's bad, I'll let everybody know, right? To which they responded, yeah, sure. Ooh, acting pretty confident, are you? Well, let's find out if they have a reason to be. Or if they don't, let's check it out. Alright, it's review time. So, like most of you probably know by now, my channel is not a review channel. I do these very rarely and only when something is very interesting to me. So, a lot of companies try to have me review their tablets, and most of them I turn down because I don't have the time or I'm not interested. Last time I did a review was for this one here, which is another one that XP Pen released not too long ago, about a year ago maybe. And this was the 15.6 Pro model or something like that. Anyways, you can find a link to that in the top right corner of the screen here if you're interested in something a little bit smaller. But see the size comparison? Yeah, it's pretty big. But yeah, I thought this was going to be the last one in a while. And I told them, until you have like something for professionals coming out, I'm kind of done, reviewing similar tablets all the time. And so they were like, wait, we actually have one aimed at professionals that's coming out in a couple of months. And this happens to be the one. So I'm like, yeah, if that's the case, then I definitely want to check it out. And there you have it. This is the Artist 24 Pro. To be honest, I think this is the only one that should warrant the Pro tag. All the other ones, they're really more like, budget-friendly tablets. But this one at, I think, around $900 US, without a sale going on. I think they have a sale right now, but at $900, this is not so budget anymore, right? So we're entering professional levels, definitely. And what makes it especially good for professionals is just the higher quality. I'm saying for professionals, but for serious artists, basically. Now, it's not 4K yet, so it's not like, Wacom is defeated or anything like that. They are still ahead of the curve. But this is a major jump from all the 1080p tablets that were the only Wacom alternative until now. And so yeah, I'm pretty stoked to review it. So first we're going to check out kind of what's out there, what's similar, maybe similar price range, and then similar tablets with similar size, and see how it compares, how it stacks up against them. And of course I'll take it for a spin and let you know what I feel about it, how it actually works, how good it is, how bad it is, we'll see. And then, of course, at the very end, I'll answer the question that's probably on everyone's mind. Should you spend the money on this? Is it worth $900? $900 is a lot of money. And of course, as usual with my reviews, you can expect no BS, I don't really care if the company gave it to me or not. Like I said, I'm not like an XP Pen rep or anything like that. I don't owe them anything, and I certainly don't feel like I do. So yeah, if you want an unbiased review of these things, I'm not going to be reviewing this any differently than if I purchased it myself. So let's go. Let's check out how this thing stacks up against the competition. Okay, so, well, we'll be comparing 4 different tablets today. So on the right here, we have, of course, the Wacom 24, which would be, kind of like the most direct comparison. Wacom 24 Pro, which is going to be, again, one of their, higher end tablets. So this is good stuff. Here in the middle, we have the new XP Pen 24 Pro. And then on the left here, we have the Canvas Pro 24, which was also announced just recently. And then I threw in there the slightly older Artist 15.6 Pro by XP Pen, just for fun. So here, the first thing that is going to matter to a lot of people is going to be the resolution, of course. So these are supposed to be premium tablets, right? So we have here the Huion, which is also QHD, so good job stepping it up. Then we have the new XP Pen tablet, also QHD. And then the Wacom here features 4K resolutions. Next, we can take a look at the tilt range. So all of them are going to have a tilt of 60 degrees. So that is the same on all of these tablets. And again, most of this here is going to be similar. The challenge is more in trying to find the differences between all of them, at least between those two here on the left. All the tablets here, all the pens feature 8,000 levels of pressure. And once again, this is a number that really doesn't mean anything. It's really how those levels are, are used. What I've found is that on cheaper tablets, usually, even though you have a lot of levels, they are not accessible. So you'll never really be able to tell the difference between 8,000 or 4,000 or even 2,000 for that matter. And 8,000 is certainly way more than you need. Just so you know, on my older tablet, I only have 2,048 levels and I have never wanted any more. It's never been a problem, never been a bottleneck. All right, next here we can take a look at the interface because that is pretty significant it's significantly different in all of these. So here for the Huion, we have not much, right? So just basic stuff to connect your screen and not much more than that. On this new XP Pen tablet, we have a little bit more than that. Actually, we have 2 extra USB 3 ports that we can use in the back of the tablet for random stuff. So for like a mouse or keyboard, whatever, or to charge your phone. If we go to the Wacom here, we're going to have more stuff. So in terms of ports, we have like 4 USB-C ports, USB 3 ports, 1 USB-C port, a lot. And then here we can also see the mention about the Express key remote. So this is something that is significantly different between those tablets, so between the Wacoms and the other ones. These feature 20 shortcut keys on both sides here. So you have, like 10 on each side, plus the little wheel on this case for the XP Pen. And then you're gonna get like a slider thing on the Huion. Personally, as I've said before, I'm not a fan of buttons because I never use them. I prefer to use the keyboard shortcuts. But I don't think I represent the majority here. So a lot of people tend to like these. Now, in terms of, how good these work, I don't know. I feel like it feels better. It feels a little bit more premium than the ones from the previous models that I reviewed, so the 15.6 Pro model. But I really feel like this, something's gonna get stuck underneath, something's gonna get dirty over time. I don't know. I have no way to tell how long this is going to last. Maybe they're amazing, but I feel like buttons like this, especially if you use it a little bit too hard, they're almost bound to break. I don't know. Maybe you guys can let me know if you've had a tablet like this, like one of the Pro models with the little wheels here. Let me know how the buttons hold up. All right, next, what's going to be important is going to be the actual screen, right? So what we draw on. So here for the Huion, they have it pretty good. So they have a anti-glare etch glass. So this is going to be very similar, if not identical, to what Wacom does. So it's basically the glass itself is anti-glare. The main difference with this tablet here is that it's a film, a protective film that you can damage in theory, and eventually you can peel it off and swap it out for a new one. I will show you why I hate this, having a film on top of the screen. Let me show you something. So I was very unfortunate and I bumped the screen just a little bit while I was unboxing it. And then this is what happened, right? So I scratched the little film that covers the screen. And so now I have to live with that. And my OCD is really, really hating this. And of course, this would not happen if it was just a glass surface, right? So there would be no opportunity for damage like this. Another thing that I wanted to show. All right, so I don't know if you'll be able to pick this up, but let me try. Oh yeah, see what it does? It's almost like it's moving the air underneath the film, and then you get like these little streaks here. And then eventually, if you do it long enough, it'll create like a bubble. There you go, now I have a bubble under my cursor. So obviously, you probably won't be doing this a whole lot when you draw, when you paint or when you model, and it kind of goes away like, pretty easily if you just wipe it. But that is one of the reasons why I hate having a film on this. Now, of course, something like this would never happen if it had just etched glass like the Huion does. So when it comes to the overall, like technical side of things, this is really the one thing that bums me out the most, having this little film on the device. But everything else, including the color gamut here, is better on the XP Pen. So 120 RGB is about 88%, somewhere around that range. Of the Adobe gamut. So this one has 90% of the Adobe gamut. Not incredibly better, but a little bit. Of course, none of these compare with the 99% here of the Adobe gamut that you get on the Wacom Pro models. Last thing I want to mention is the stand that comes with this. So this one has a decent stand. It's actually the better deal out of the three. So this one here, the Huion, features a pretty lame stand, you know, something that they've used on all the other tablets for a long time. Looks kind of weak, looks kind of cheap, and yeah. The Wacom ones don't include any stands, so that's that. And this one here, well, let's check it out. So when you press this little thing here, it unlocks this mechanism, and then you can slide it up and down. When it's at the lowest, it's almost 90 degree with the table. So very nice. If you want to use this as your main monitor, you can definitely have it stand like this. I'd be a little bit nervous, and at its lowest, it's not flat on the table, but it's pretty flat. So I don't think, you know, any flatter than this would make any sense. This stand works pretty good, and it feels quite sturdy. So it doesn't look like something that will break anytime soon. You know, it locks in place pretty good. It doesn't wiggle at all. At the bottom here of the screen, you have some like big rubber feet. Hopefully these stay on for a long time and they don't come off. I don't know. And then of course, probably the most important when it comes to the price, this is $900. The Huion is $900 as well, so same price. And I think both of them until the launch are at a slight discount, so something like 15%. And of course, if we want to talk about the Wacom, well, that Wacom Pro will run you at $2,500 instead. So, you know, slightly more. Now, real quick, if we take a look at the Artist 15.6, so the cheaper, smaller model. So this one comes with a very similar, very similar color gamut. So 88% instead of the 90% that the other one had. And by the way, NTSC and Adobe, it's very similar. This one is 450 instead of the 900, so exactly half, but is 1080p only. Doesn't have a proper stand. Instead, it's just like a plastic sheet stand thing. So it's kind of flimsy. It has something at least. And when it comes to everything else, all the other stats, like the pen quality, levels of pressure, all the tilt level, all that kind of stuff, it's all similar to the bigger version of the tablet. Same thing with the screen. It has a film on it that, hey, I also happened to damage when I did my review. So when it comes to technical differences, that's about it. So not a whole lot different, this one and the Huion. The main difference is going to be the stand that you get. So you get a significantly, better one with this one. I feel like the color gamut here is marginally better. Button situation, very similar. This one has 2 extra USB 3 ports in the back, so that's a nice thing to have, especially if this is going to be like your desktop tablet, having an extra connectivity, always useful, something that the Huion was lacking. And then of course there's the screen, so Wacom in the league of its own, has very, very high quality glass surface. Looks like the Huion is taking a similar route. This one still has a film on it that you can peel off, that I'm guessing is going to get damaged faster. Plastic is not as strong as glass. So long term, that's something to think about. Now, another detail that a lot of you guys seem to place a lot of importance in, which I find honestly kind of strange because I really never bother to care, but it would be how bonded, if the glass is bonded to the actual LCD screen. All of this to say that it reduces, the thickness of the glass. So when you press on, when you draw something, distance between the tip of the pen and the actual cursor that you see on your screen is going to be more or less. I can tell you from what I have, I'm using the 27QHD Wacom Cintiq. That's my daily driver. I don't plan on changing it. I have no complaints, never had any complaints. Like I said, it's only 2000 levels of pressure. It has a pretty thick glass, I would say about maybe half a centimeter. So there is some parallax, but I don't know. I've worked my entire life and it's never bothered me. I tried the newer models, where on the 4K screens where it's very, very short. I also reviewed one a couple of years ago. I think it was the Wacom Pro 16, and it was very nice to draw on the screen. But one thing I didn't like was that when you press too hard, you can see the glass kind of bending the screen, and you can see some LCD artifacts, like the actual screen getting pushed against, and I really didn't like that. With the thicker glass, you can kind of abuse it, you can hit it really hard, never breaks. I'm a fan of that. And I will say that the distance here, between the pen and the glass is about 3 millimeters. So let's say about half of what it is on my Wacom, and it's consistent with the 15.6 version of the same family. Now, I don't know if the Huion is going to be thinner than that. I have a hard time believing that it's possible or that it would be good for the screen anyways. It's always a balance of, you know, is it too fragile? Is it too thick? So once again, I'm just mentioning it because a lot of you guys have voiced your opinion, your concerns about this kind of stuff. I personally don't care if it's like 1 millimeter, 2 millimeters, 5 millimeters. As long as it's predictable, then I'm fine with that. But this is better than the one I use. And when you press on it, it doesn't deform the LCD panel, so that's good. The distance is very short. I'm happy with this. Now, let's try this thing here. So I have it set up so that we can see the amount of parallax in here. So as you can see, my cursor is very, very close to the tip of my pen. When it comes to the entire screen, I had no problem here, so I always do a double check to make sure that there's no dead zones and that the cursor doesn't do anything weird when traveling across the screen here, especially in the corners usually. This is where you'll find the problems on the older models. But yeah, everything here looks very good. I haven't found that the tablet gets particularly hot at any point, not uncomfortably hot in my experience. And here I have a tilt brush loaded so we can see the tilt function. And I mean, it's pretty responsive. So there's some, you know, regardless of how I turn the pen also, it seems to be aiming the bristles in the right direction every time. And responding to pressure well. So I personally never use tilt, but yeah, it works. Next, what I try is always how the pressure levels work. So technically what pressure levels would allow us is that when you press very, very lightly on the brush, you can get a very like hair thin line. And when you press really hard, it gradually, or like as you press harder and harder, it gradually increases the size of the stroke all the way to its maximum. The first test is trying to get the finest line possible. So only like a pixel-ish wide. And as you can see here, I can get some very, very thin lines. It's not always the same though, how it activates. So sometimes it'll pick up very, very little pressure like it just did right now. Other times it's a little bit more sudden, like the line just appears out of nowhere. But from what I can see, having tested the other tablets as well, so it's quite responsive to the pressure. And let's just say there's not much difference here between this and my Wacom. The main difference though will be in how thin those lines are. So those are definitely thinner than on 2000 levels of pressure. So, you know, with 8000, this is what it allows you to do. Actually, just 4000 would be plenty for that. But yeah, so this is what you get. Now, another concern I have with this tablet was the same that I had with the previous smaller version of it, which was initial detection of the pen tip. So when you click, like when you start to do brush stroke, sometimes it would need a little bit more pressure than I'm comfortable with to activate anything. And this is something that a lot of you have mentioned as well. So sometimes when you click just like lightly, it wouldn't select it. And you can see here, sometimes it's missing a few, right? Like this one just missed. It's when you press very lightly, like it didn't register that one either. Only in extreme cases where you don't, when you don't put a certain amount of pressure, it won't register it. But for some reason, I don't know if anything changed, to be honest. I don't know if it's the pen, if the pen is causing the issue. So maybe like the detection here when you remove the nib, if this tip here has anything to do with it. And I don't know if it's because I'm just hitting the screen harder on this one because it's a bigger tablet, and when you move and stop, I don't know, maybe it has to do with my actual workflow here. Maybe I was more delicate on the smaller tablet, which is why I had more problem getting that activation happening. But yeah, I found that I've only noticed it a handful of times, and it's when I was very delicate on my touch. Otherwise, usually it will register. And the strokes, when you draw them, you can get very, very thin lines, and this is what early activation allows you to do, right? Because it registers very little amount of pressure, which creates a very thin line. The early pen detection is still a minor issue, but it feels better on this tablet and it hasn't bothered me as much. So I let my wife try it, and she did notice it as well. So it was something that was kind of bothering her. So it might be bothering you too, but I would say that if you've never used any, pen display tablet like this, you would never notice. Only if you've tried like a Wacom, if you've tried an iPad Pro, iPad, very, very good again for pen detection. There's never any miss or anything like that. Same as the Wacom. Here, sometimes you need a little bit more, and I mean like a featherweight extra more for it to be detected. But that's it. Also, something I haven't mentioned yet, but the colors, the actual colors, we've seen the technical side, 90% of the Adobe RGB, Adobe gamut, good in theory. What I usually use to compare my screens is my Dell ultra wide screen here, because out of the factory, factory defaults are very, very good. So I never have to do any kind of calibration on those screens. And of course I use my Wacom as well, which is very well calibrated out of the box. And I've never touched it either. So I get to compare with a bunch of screens, and it did very good. So in terms of the brightness, I didn't want to change anything because it was already pretty bright, bright enough for me. Any brighter than this, I think it'll be uncomfortable. You can change it with the little buttons up here. Not the easiest way to navigate, honestly, but yeah, so right now it's at 51%. So yeah, I'm not a machine, right? So my eyes are not perfect, but from what I can tell, at least, the change in the colors is very subtle. So I had a problem with the previous tablet, the smaller version of this, the 15.6, because it was saturating the colors a lot when you increase the brightness, and brightness was a little too low. And so for it to be clear, I had to crank it up to 100, and that changed the colors a bit. It added a little bit too much red, I think it was. Anyways, it doesn't seem to be a problem here. And really quickly, something I haven't shown yet, but when it comes to the lag with the brush strokes, I don't know. I don't detect any lag. It's very, very responsive, regardless of what I do. Also, let's try in ZBrush here. So I'm having no issue in ZBrush, nice and smooth, everything working perfectly. The only thing that you have to make sure of is that you uncheck the Windows ink thing here. If you don't do that, there's going to be a slight delay at the start of every brush stroke, and it's basically impossible to work in ZBrush. If you do that though, if you uncheck it, no problem. Nice and smooth. And now, the big question. Would I recommend it? Should you buy this thing? Should you spend $900 of your hard-earned money onto this piece of equipment right here? And granted, it's not $900 right now. You can get it on sale for a little bit of time. And I know these tablets usually, go on sales a lot. But, let's just say it's $900, price that is advertised. Would I recommend it? Yes. There's really two things in the tablet that I found were a negative for me. So number one, the film, this damn film on top of the screen. I wish they stopped doing that. They do that for budget level Cintiqs as well. So they're not the only ones doing this. Even Wacom does it. But all the higher end Cintiqs don't have that. They have like the real edged glass, anti-glare glass. Same thing with the Huion, it looks like. And so, yeah, so this is a big one for me. I really hate having like little dents, little chips on my screen. And I see this one all the time, the one that I did. And I know that this is probably going to get scratched up a lot more than glass would. So I'm probably going to be replacing it. I don't think they include a spare screen unless I didn't look carefully and I threw it away. But yeah, I'll just have to be careful with this one if I don't want to change it over time. And the other thing was the initial activation of the pen. So that was a big issue in the previous smaller tablet that I reviewed from XP Pen. Not so much a problem this time around, but from what they told me, this is not something that they plan on fixing. I don't think they see that as an issue. So that's that to consider. But like I said, it really didn't bother me that much this time around, So I would compare this screen as a very good gaming computer. And the Wacoms, I would compare those to more of a good workstation, right? So there's a price difference between the two. The two are not for everybody. So a workstation, it'll be something that's used on the workspace. At work, in the office, and it's a machine that's built to last, to take a lot of abuse. It's expensive. The equipment's more expensive because it's more durable, and it can take a beating, and that's the whole point. It's more premium. Now, does everyone need a workstation? No, of course not. You don't need this much power. Most people don't. And so the next logical tablet to get then, I mean, is this one. What else? I really can't think of anything else. So if you're looking for something that's very good, higher end, not top end, but high end tablet, good resolution, good colors. When it comes to the parallax, I mean, there's very little on here. Like I said, it's half of what I use daily. I don't think this is going to bother anyone. So for the average user, unless you have a ton of money and you don't mind spending it on a product that's a little bit more premium, right? 4K, like the top Wacom Cintiqs, but that come at a price tag of $2,500 US. If you're not one of those people, if you're not like a working professional that does this all day long, that requires a tablet that will just put up with anything and requires the 4K, requires, you know, all the ports that they have and whatever, you know, requires that premium level, this is kind of a no-brainer. I don't know that I would recommend anything else. Granted, I haven't tried the Huion yet, but the two seem to be fairly equivalent. If anything, the stand on this is better. It has slightly better color gamut, but there's a film on top. I would definitely recommend this if you have, you know, if you have the money for it. Having a nicer tablet, a bigger screen is a huge plus for me too, especially if it's going to be like a workstation, right? So you can use it as a screen if you're not drawing on it to watch my YouTube videos. So is it worth, you know, paying twice as much to get this over like a 16-inch version? For me, it serves two different purposes. So the 16-inch, for me at least, is more of like a travel tablet. So I wouldn't use it for the same anyways, but if it were just a workstation, if I can only pick one, of course I'm gonna get this one. You know, bigger is better in my book. Always has been for tablet, that's why I have a larger tablet. The competition is getting more serious now with these kinds of tablets on the market. So they're not far from 4K now, so maybe we'll see, you know, in the near future, a 4K tablet by XP Pen. Wink, wink, I wanna review it. The only reason why I wouldn't give you like 100% yes for this tablet is that I don't know long-term how it's going to hold up. This is not going to be a tablet that I will use all the time. I still prefer my Wacom for the reason that I gave. You know, I like the look of it better, so that's a big part. But also, you know, this one has a film, the Wacom doesn't, and those are really like the only things that prevent me from using this as my daily driver. If they ever release a tablet that has, you know, no buttons, oh, I'd be so happy. And if they have full screen of etched glass and no film anymore, I mean, yeah, competition is heating up, definitely. So I'm very, very excited to see this tablet come on the market. I can't wait to see what the future holds and how this competition is going to heat up between all those brands. I have my popcorn ready and I'll be watching from the sideline. $900 is a lot of money for anybody, but goddamn, you get a lot for your money now. So I'm kind of jealous, you know, that this didn't exist when I was younger, but happy for you guys that it does. So let me know, is this something that you consider, you know, buying? Are the details that I mentioned even a problem for you? Is it something that you can easily look over? Are there other things that I didn't mention maybe that are a big deal for you? Let me know. I'm very, very curious to see what the response is to this tablet here. And yeah, I hope the review was helpful. I hope this helps you make your mind if you were thinking of doing like pulling the trigger on the tablet, any tablet. If you want to learn more about this tablet, you can check out their website. I'll put links to that down below. And that's going to be it for the review. So thanks so much for watching, and I will see you.